We don't have to actually draw it, we just put it.
We are going to draw it. I just started by doing it with our color tiles, and then I'll show you how we're going to draw it. Okay. Now, when we draw it, we're not going to use colors. We're just going to use our pencils to draw it. So instead of using the yellow and red, our keys will be slightly different as we draw it. So I'm going to write my key over here in the top corner. So my key for what we draw, I'm going to do my open circles are negative, and my shaded in circles are going to be positive. So you can kind of make your own key. And in my mind, I think of that because the yellow ones are lighter color, so we're just making them open. My positive ones are a darker color, so we're shading them in so they look darker. Okay. So I think that it'll still transition, you'll still understand it as we do it. So as I draw it, if I've got -4 plus -4, I'm going to draw 4 negatives on the top row, 4 negatives on the bottom row, and all I have to do is count them up, and I get 8 negatives. So those type are pretty easy, right? When they're both negatives, you just add them like you do normal numbers, but you just make the answer negative. Okay? We're going to see that there's lots of different styles of these problems, though, because sometimes one can be positive, one can be negative, they can both be negative. So let's look down at this second problem. It tells us +3 plus -6. So if I have +3, that means I want 3 red ones. Okay. And then if I have -6, I want 6 yellow ones. And I'm going to just line them up on top of each other like that. You'll see all that. Okay. Now, this is where our zero pairs come into play. Lindley, read me the definition that we wrote down for zero pairs. Okay. So when I have a positive and a negative, those cancel each other out. And that happens all in real life. If you have a positive and a negative, one positive, one negative, they cancel each other out, and they're back level playing field to 0. Okay? So they cancel each other out. What I'm going to do to show that they cancel out is I'm going to take them away. So I'm going to get my pairs, and I'm going to take them away. So your ones that they have one red, one yellow, take those away. And how many am I left with, Emily? I'm left with 3, and since they're yellow, it's -3. So my answer over here is going to be -3. Okay, the way we're going to draw it is like this. 3 positives, so I'm going to draw 3 that are shaded in. And your shading does not have to be perfect as long as they look different from the open ones. Underneath it, I've got 6 negatives, so 6 of my open circles. And you want to try to line them up how I'm lining them up, because then it makes it really easy to see your zero pairs. Okay, and that's the goal, is to find your zero pairs. Yes, sir?
Okay, so for every positive, if there's positive and negative, for every positive, it knocks out a negative?
Yes, exactly. One positive knocks out one negative. They cancel each other out. Good way to think about it. Okay, so the way I'm going to show on my drawing that they cancel each other out, I'm just going to draw a line through it. That means they're gone. And so being able to draw it is important, because let's say you're in the middle of a test, you're probably not going to have a baggie of red and yellow dots on your desk, right? And so if you can still do the same method we're doing with the red and yellow, but you know how to actually draw it out, then you're going to be able to solve it and get your answer. Yes, ma'am? Okay. On how I drew it, or how you do it at your desk? Or what?
Just how to...
Okay. Well, anytime you have one positive, one negative, that's what we call our zero pair. And the way to think about it is like, if I'm in the hole $1 in my bank account, okay, so I'm negative $1. But then my mom gives me $1, so I go put it back in the bank, I'm back up to 0. Does that make sense? One positive, one negative, they always equal up to 0. So since they equal to 0, I can mark them out and get rid of them. They're gone. So my answer is just going to be what's left over after I get rid of the ones that add up to 0. Because if they're worth 0, I wouldn't count them up when I'm counting at my answer. Okay. I think the more we do a few, you'll get it even more. Okay. So let's try the next one, +1 and -7. So you're going to get 1 positive, so 1 red. And I'm going to put mine up above maybe this time, so you can see it. +1, and then we have 7 negatives. So I'm going to list